Hi, I'm Andrew Everard for Sound Advice Online, and these are the new Fyne Audio F55E speakers, the least expensive full range loudspeakers in the range to use this Fyne Audio Isoflare 2-in-1 drive unit. Well, these are described as a 2.5-way speaker, but if you're looking at them here, you may well be saying, well, there's only 2 drive units. Well, in fact, this one, as I said, is a 2-in-1 drive unit. It's got a 19mm tweeter down there in the throat of a 125mm mid-bass driver. The idea being that the two work together to give you a point source of sound, which has long been a sort of dream of loudspeaker designers, to get all the drivers appear like they're delivering music from the same place. It's a bit tricky when they're arranged up and down a baffle. It's 3 or 4 different units. This endeavours to cure that problem by having everything coming from the same place. The advantages being better imaging, better sound staging, better stereo focus. It's a technology that Fyne Audio has long been developing. It's not the only company out there in the market with a 2-in-1 drive unit, but this one's been very thoroughly worked on over many years. And you'll notice it also has this, what they call a fine flute surround. This is sort of a ridged rubber surround. You can see it's sort of giving as I press it. The idea being this breaks up the resonances on the driver as well. So the whole idea is to have a clean, totally integrated treble and mid-range, slightly upper bass driver unit. Sitting below it is another 125mm, 12.5cm unit. This is the bass unit, again with that fine flute surround. And what's unique about these speakers, and indeed most of the Fyne Audio designs, is the way they handle that bass. Rather than having a port on the back or the front of the speaker, which can cause problems with where you position it in the room if you're not to get a boomy bass, the F55E, like other Fyne Audio speakers, uses something called a bass tractrix bass reflex system. The bass vents downwards through the cabinet and out through the bottom of the main cabinet. Underneath that is a sort of cone-shaped diffuser. That's the tractrix bit. And that spreads the bass into a sort of 360-degree sphere of bass, which is fine because very low frequencies you really can't hear where they're coming from in terms of localizing them and pointing to, oh, look, there's where the bass is coming from. So the more diffuse the bass is, the better it sounds in the room. This 360-degree bass also has the advantage that you can place the speakers virtually anywhere in the room and still get A, decent bass, and B, no boom. Fyne Audio would have you put them about half a metre away from the rear wall. I've been using them a little closer than that with no problems at all. The room's not huge, but they seem to work very well, giving both excellent bass extension and tight control without that sort of drumming one-note bass you get when the room's being overdriven by the speaker. These aren't big speakers. They're about 92.5cm tall, have a footprint about the same as a small speaker on a stand. And that's the appeal here, because instead of having a small speaker on a stand, you could use these speakers instead, and you would get not only all the focus and clarity you're used to from small speakers, but also that better bass, weight, substance scale, whatever you want to call it, that fills the room. And I'm not just talking about thumping bass lines on rock or dance or whatever tracks, whatever floats your boat. Where these speakers really score is with classical music, or orchestral music. They deliver a really excellent sense of the richness and scale of an orchestra spread in front of you, and allied with that definition in the upper frequencies, which in aural terms lets you see exactly where the different sections of the orchestra are. And they're also hugely successful with an instrument like a solo piano, and you get the full range of the piano's keyboard with weight, with punch when the notes are played hard down in the lower frequencies, but also that sense of air and space around the instrument, and the feeling of being able to see. Again, I keep saying see instead of hear. You can see the sort of the size and the shape of the acoustic in which the instrument's been recorded. So is this speaker an exceptional all-rounder? I'd say it was. I mean, there is that thing of replacing smaller speakers on stands. It's competitively priced with some of the better smaller speakers on the market with their dedicated stands. And as well as being room friendly, it's also amplifier friendly. It's got decent sensitivity and sensible impedance, and that means it won't overstretch even small amplifiers. Fyne say about 30 watts is the minimum for these speakers. That would make it very usable with things like network amplifiers, which generally have a relatively small output. But you could also run it with something a bit bigger and meatier if you wanted to. But most of all, it's very well suited to the kind of amplifiers still in the three-figure prices with which it's very likely to be used. So, room-friendly, system-friendly, capable of an awful lot of weight from a relatively small speaker. Are there any drawbacks? Well, I'm not exactly sold on this black ash vinyl finish. I mean, it's very well done, it's very neatly finished and everything else, but there's just something a bit old-fashioned about black ash vinyl, just because we've seen so many speakers in this kind of finish over the years. There is a wood finish coming, apparently early in 2026. That will also be a vinyl finish rather than a real wood. I guess it's symptomatic of the speakers being built to a very tight price point. I mean, there's a lot of technology in there for the money. But I can't help thinking they might look better in some of the finishes that some rival designs have, a matte black or a satin white or something like that. Just would give them a slight lift and a little bit more sense of being an up-to-date modern speaker. But for all that, these are functional, old school looking, superb sounding, extremely affordable speakers, and there's nothing more to say except that they are somewhat exceptional for the money you pay for them.